Hi, my name's Frank McKenna. I'm the Group Chair and Chief Exec of Downtown in Business, and this is the latest in our Meet the Partner series, the Downtown Den podcast. I'm delighted to be joined by the head honcho from United Wolves Productions. Just for context, we've been working with Michael and his team now for over 12 months. The video work they've done for us has been absolutely superb, outstanding. In fact, so I thought it would be a good idea to have a chat to Michael, see what else that United Wolves Productions get up to, the background to the business, and how he's helping other companies in Liverpool and indeed across the Downtown in Business network. So, Michael, welcome to the Downtown Den.
Thank you, Frank.
Tell us a little bit about your background first, because quite a fascinating character. From Bulgaria, I know. But how did you end up on these shores, and what are your sort of experiences in the past that have led you to basically run and manage this fantastic production company that you have?
Thanks, Frank. I'll try to keep it as much in a nutshell as possible. I started in Bulgaria as a performer. I've always been kind of on the storytelling aspect of things. I used to be a classical pianist, a classical singer, a folk singer and a dancer. Then I became a magician, an actor, a very modest man. And I think the acting kind of kept everything together. I was part of a big theatre company there. So moved to the UK and indeed to Liverpool to study acting in the Liverpool Institute of Performing Arts. Graduated from there in 2019. Had a theatre company for a couple of years. Managed to do 6 plays, so 24 performances were produced in 2 years. Managed to sell out most of them, I was happy to say. And just as we were picking up, COVID killed theatre. So moved into the digital sector, did some short films. So we started all of this. United Wolves Productions was set up as a small film studio. Did some short films, won some awards on a national and international level. And then it was kind of a weird sort of thing. We, for a lack of a better term, we stumbled into the world of business. We were frequenting I've started to talk to the commercial sector here because we were doing some show reels for actors, some weddings at the time, and I really wanted to help some small businesses around. But we were lucky enough at the time, went to a few sort of smaller networking events, met the sales director for a company called Regis, commercial real estate around the world, and they had just recently, a few months earlier, opened their Man Island site. So they asked us to do one piece for the 4 sites of Regis in Liverpool, and we did that, and 2 weeks, this is their words, obviously, as much as we know, 2 weeks later, on the back of that, they sold the 2 biggest offices within Man Island, bringing them revenue of something like 19 grand per month for the next 2 years. So for us, we saw the impact that we could bring with our storytelling, with our work to the commercial sector. And also, it was a wake-up call, because at the time, the Regis team, some of the Regis team were like, well, it's offices, it's tables and chairs, what are we going to film? But it wasn't why people were going after an office, location, community, even, in fact, status, especially in a place like Man Island. So we saw that there's initially a gap in the commercial sector when it comes to the storytelling within video. It wasn't enough for us to, we've got a few cameras who will take a few nice shots. It was, how do we tell that story? How do we make someone who's never heard of Company X want to work with Company X, or what do they need to see in order to decide to work with them? And we did that for a year, managed to turn a small profit in our first year, and in our second year, sort of mid-second year, we remodeled the business, because then we realized another gap in the market, which was, it was all great and good, companies needing a lot of content, but a lot of content is very expensive. And also, especially companies in the sort of 3 to 10 mil mark, they don't need high quality videos all the time, every week, every month. So instead of finding that retainable model, we decided to come in, figure out what those media needs for the year are, and train them, buy them equipment, upskill their internal departments, And this way, when we're working with marketing departments, they don't feel threatened. Rather, they feel nice because obviously we get to upskill them. They become more valuable for the business. And on a business owner perspective, it meant that if we were to fall out, you don't feel crippled because you have those skills to do that yourself. And obviously on the top part, we'll still handle the larger production needs, the big corporate videos that need to go on, YouTube and website and LinkedIn as time progresses. So it became a little bit of a self-destruct mechanism in the sense that as time progresses, either their needs are going to change and we're going to carry on with the bigger pieces only, or they'd rather us train an internal department and upskill them so they can carry on the needs of the business. But our point was we knew very well we can't shoot for everyone. It was a point of how can we help as many businesses as possible. So most of our future plans are tailored towards that. Sooner or later, probably, in fact, even next year, we'll come back to the creative side of things. And as time progresses, maybe invest even more time and resources into that, because effectively, end goal, probably, on a personal sort of creative level, we want to go back to filmmaking, but good films that people want to watch, not the sludge that's coming out now.
Right, well, good luck with that. Just in terms of the work that you do with the corporate sector, and obviously now people understanding more from your background, I think when you look at a lot of corporate videos, they're a bit samey. They do lack that creative edge, I feel, quite a number of them. And I'm guessing that's the unique proposition that you can bring to the table, because as I say, you've got that creative background. If you've worked in the theatre, then obviously you've got an eye for what works in terms of that space. So what's the starting point when you go and talk to a business about how they begin to market themselves through video? What's the first sort of thing that you're looking for from them? And how much does it depend on their needs as to what you'll then provide? Or have you just got this one-size-fits-all offer?
It's a great question. It's kind of a twofold answer, should I say. So there is an element of templating hopefully without the risk of putting ourselves down. As in, if you are, say you're in the legal profession, right? And there's some fantastic statistics about that, like 44% of people prefer to engage with a solicitor's firm only after they've seen a video about them. We process video 60,000 times quicker than text. We retain it 98% more than text and images. So a lot of things there. But there are 10,100 registered solicitors companies, out of which less than 10% have any high-quality videos or any videos at all. Now,
less than 10%?
Yeah, less than 10%. Oh. A lot of that is because video doesn't work for us, which is another way of going, we don't know how to make video work for us. Part of the templating that you kind of asked for, it's not necessarily one size fits all, but it's a similar structure in the sense of, if you have never engaged with this particular solicitor firm, or in fact, most of professional services firms, what are the things that you're looking out for in order to know that you can trust them? If it's solicitors, and all of this is like massive statistical information on Google, it's not something that I pluck out of thin air, but they need to appear knowledgeable, they need to appear approachable, they need to appear, like if you're in big corporate litigation, then you need to basically act like a shark. You need to be, can this person get me out of trouble, effectively? If you're in family court, then it needs to be a lot more, or family problems as a whole, divorce attorneys, all that kind of stuff. Can I trust them with the intricacies of my personal needs? So all of those things we'll look at. And the templated thing comes from, well, what do lawyers do? Well, they have meetings. Cool, we need to show that. What else do they do? Well, they work on computers. Great, we need to show them that. Now, in fact, there's a lot of, and I totally understand that, there's a lot of points to make about, well, we want to be seen differently. That's totally fine. That comes from your offer. It comes from your people that work in the company. It comes from how you are in front of a camera, or what are the general, for lack of a better term, vibe of the office. But if you don't show people what they want to see, it lowers then the possibility of them wanting to engage with you. Like there's a lot of professional service company that invest a lot in having events for their clients, for example. But if we showcase a lot more of that, it just looks like they want to get pissed, which is not the greatest trust building element, if you will. So to kind of answer back your question without waffling too much on is, first and foremost, the companies that we want to work with and the companies that want to invest in video, they should be looking to grow, obviously, because it is the most powerful factor or most powerful single strand of marketing that is to help there. They should be looking to grow. They should have a clear strategy for the year, as in where do they want to go, which departments need to be pushed more, which departments earn the most and need to be pushed even further. Are there bottlenecks only on the side of clients, or are there bottlenecks internally? Do we struggle to get talent, for example? Do we struggle to upskill? Do we struggle to communicate between departments? The larger the company, obviously, that's usually where the bottlenecks are. And once we understand that strategy, we'll build the necessary media pieces with them, see which pieces need to be done professionally and which pieces they can be trained to do internally. And then we track those over time. Whilst video on their own, I've been always very objective about that. Video on its own does not guarantee 100% return on investment, obviously, because it depends what you do with it. There's no point producing 300 pieces of content and posting 5 of them. You don't win anything out of it, they don't, but you get to track those. It usually takes a company that it's being trained, not only by us, just in general, it takes a company about 3 months to get to a point where they go, technically we understand what we're doing. Then it takes another 3 months to go, right, we've produced all this content. This kind of content seems to do a lot better than the other. And then after that is just pushing more and then better and then more and better. And only then do you go into new. So there is a templated way to look at it, but every company's offering, every company's story, every company's people will be totally different. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And I'm thinking in terms of the way that businesses do market, communicate and promote themselves these days. And, you know, when I think back to when we set Downtown in Business up, which was 2003, it was very heavily print driven. I remember we created a website and then started to do e-bulletins, which were, at the time, very innovative. Now every bugger does them, you know, so everyone, you get swamped, don't you, in your inbox with all of this sort of stuff. Print is really struggling, and, you know, I don't say that with any pleasure because I'm still one of those traditional guys who buys a Sunday newspaper, but not much else I have to say in print these days. But then, I suppose businesses, particularly from my generation, do struggle to understand and appreciate how powerful the thing that you do can potentially be. And it can be a bit scary as well. So all of those new platforms, you know, people may have just got used to putting a LinkedIn post on every week and putting a couple of photographs on Twitter. And I maintain that I'm going to always call it Twitter because Musk is a prick, right? So tell me, if you're trying to explain to a 50-something who's been business owner for a long time, continues to advertise in print media, has noticed a lack of return, but is a bit nervous of getting into this space, how do you sell that to somebody of that ilk?
Very good question. Again, I think, so twofold answer to that, because it can go one of two directions. I'll tell you a small little story to illustrate that. I was invited to consult for a very big legal company in the UK. I'm not going to name them for obvious reasons. Turnover was it was above 200 million, so massive, and their media output was, I don't want to say non-existent, but it will be the equivalent of selling Rolls-Royce cars with pictures of your phone. Like, it was not comparable at all. And I was invited to consult on to where they could potentially go, and I met two of the partners, and from the get-go I should tell you, you need to try very hard to convince me for this, because I don't really see a point in video production. And I said, okay, before we talk about
Was
that...
it the royal family that you were talking to?
I can't do any accents, Frank.
Well, stop trying then.
No,
Hey.
no, I like it. It's fun. But I ask, before we talk about the video side of things, could I ask what would you say is your biggest bottleneck, marketing-wise or comms-wise? So our biggest bottleneck is that smaller companies have just started out. They start shouting about themselves. They put a lot of marketing materials out there, and they're eating our market share. I said, right, do you really need me to tell you where the problem is? And he goes, yes, but everyone knows who we are. We've been around here for 150 years. It's like, okay, fine. With those kind of companies that I have an internal rule. There is negotiation, obviously. There is conversations, obviously. There's an element of, I don't even call it convincing, because if you know you want to get to X, then the question is, how do we get to X? Not rather, you have to convince me that you found a way to do it. That was the shortest meeting I've ever had. It lasted 7.5 minutes. And I said, I'm sorry, I don't think we're going to be a good fit, because you've presented the problem. You've presented that other people have found a solution. I am here with the solution, and you're telling me I have to convince you that there's a solution. That's never going to work. The way I normally do that, partially, is educating. I spend a lot of time in, especially when you rightfully put, if they're, not to be ageist, but if they're middle-aged and upwards, I spend a lot of time finding out where their true bottlenecks are. I've spent a lot of time educating what video can do and does do, but only if that's something that they might want. Our big internal thing is we don't sell anything to anyone who doesn't need it, and more importantly, who doesn't want it. Now, very rarely, because this is more of a dichotomy, very rarely would we have someone go, I want 23 videos and 184 pieces of content. No one really knows that. It's more of a conversation of, we definitely want to get here. We are now here. Can you help me with that? And then the negotiation effectively becomes, well, video can do this and can't do this. We spend a lot of time in discovery, what we call discovery, meetings where I get to know, what does mission success look like? Because we have been in those conversations as like, well, we want guaranteed 50 new clients next month. Well, I can't help with that. What is the tangible? What does that look like? When we need to have an improved presence, what does that look like? Right? Is it more or less likely? Because on average, all of our media partnerships, since the remodeling, we started selling media partnerships, all of our media partnerships on average yield at least 180 pieces of content for the year that they produce internally, and everything else professionally we produce on top of that. Is it more or less likely after you post about 200 pieces of content that are valuable and good looking and represent your company properly everywhere across the digital world? Is it more or less likely that you're going to get more clients? Is it more or less likely that you're going to get more attention? Is it more or less likely that people are going to know more about you and get to choose you when it comes to that? So it's more of a piece of, if you truly want to not improve, because ages ago it was the website, you were totally right about that. Ages ago it was, why do we need a website? And then it was, why do we need socials? Why do we need to post on LinkedIn? And now it becomes, why do we need video? That's going to shift very, very soon, because attention has become the scarcest resource when it comes to marketing. And it's a matter of what is the minimum amount of investment or the minimum type of investment for the maximum amount of return. Unfortunately for us, and unfortunately for a lot of people that don't want to embrace it, it's video. Now, video works, and there's the final kind of little caveat I want to put. I separate marketing in kind of two strands, what I call guns and bullets. Guns are the very trackable stuff. You can point them somewhere, you know if you've hit your target. Those are things like email marketing, because you can track open rates, paid advertising, because you can track click-through rates and who's gone on the website, landing pages, things like that. Whereas bullets are things like the logo, things like videos, things like copywriting, things that don't necessarily within themselves build you up. But if you take the logo, for example, you can say, well, does the logo really help? If you see the two golden arches, you know what's under there. And that recognition is exactly that. So you take the bullets, you make sure that they're fine, and then you put them in behind good guns and fire outwards. Organic content, things that you post, is about volume. Yeah, if you want to produce only 3 pieces throughout the year, that's totally fine. but push a lot of marketing money behind paid advertising, for example, to make sure they hit the target. Alternatively, if you don't want to do any of the paid stuff, do a lot of the content, but tell your story. It's not about what you want to tell to the people, it's what they need to hear. Not only so that they know who you are and find you, but also so they choose you when you have that chance.
Okay. That gets me into the next part of the conversation I wanted to take you into anyway, which is if I'm thinking about a video and I am a corporate marketeer, I'm probably thinking of 5 to 10 minutes for the website, to sit on the website, to just stay on the website. I think the thing that I've noticed evolving, obviously, having worked with you for the last 18 months or so, is the power of reels and those shorter pieces. And again, perhaps using your experience and expertise, if you can describe where people's attention span is at these days and whether or not people are really going to go onto a website and watch a 10, 15-minute video, or whether what we need to do now is take account of people who have not got that patience anymore, and how you, again, can tell that story, get that message across about a business, but in much shorter pieces of work.
So part of what needs to be done to kind of differentiate those two, so I'll address the attention question first, then I'll move on to where to use what. Attention-wise, yes, our attention is ever growing shorter. We want everything on demand, everything to be quick, everything to be that, like all that kind of stuff. However, and maybe an unpopular opinion, maybe it isn't, you go on YouTube, you happily watch a 35-minute compilation of the best moments of the show that you like. It's not seconds of value, it's value per second. If you want to put a 2-hour lecture, it would depend if the person talking actually provides value, or if it takes like 10 minutes to get to any point. People get bored very easily, but it's not just boredom, it's how does this relate to me? It's why things like, funny cat videos and dog videos get all of this massive attention, because it gives you gratification immediately. Media, or the different lengths, formats of videos really depend on what you want them to do. So, I'll give you an example. A standard brand video for a company, you are right, it's usually at least about 2.5. It could go up to 5 minutes, very rarely, but about 2 to 3 minute mark is a good brand video. It's very difficult to introduce someone to a company fully about who they are, what they stand behind, what their offer is, all that kind of stuff in less than that time. But utilizing that to grab people's attention first will not be as helpful. When it comes to, unfortunately, although I'm considered a creative, shall we say, a lot of my brains, I would say my speciality is more analytical, more system-based. So you can reverse engineer a lot of metrics and a lot of attention things. By reverse engineer, what I mean by that is take the most famous vanity metrics. You have likes, comments, saves, and shares. But you can reverse engineer it psychologically. Hearts or likes usually happen if there's an emotional response. It doesn't matter of what kind. Hence, the most liked videos tend to be little kittens, little puppies, or something very funny. I like this, let's move on. Comments tend to be about a topic where you want to contribute something. So either something controversial, like go up and say, Trump's my best friend and he's the best thing that happened to America. It could be true, doesn't matter. It could be false, it could be true, but it's a divisive topic. You could say the same about British politics, or anything to do with politics would usually yield comments, because people have opinions of that. Saves is, this relates to me, I need to watch it later. Shares is, this relates to someone else that I know, so I'll send it to them. So when you go, the type of reels that are like you and your employees, they tend to be shared most about people that relate to that kind of office dynamic, for example. Same goes for what the value of those reels are. So there's hooks, there's pattern interrupts, there's a lot of different objective things that people can work off, but it's a lot of information to input onto a company, for example, or anyone in the corporate sector immediately. Now, if you're going to be a content creator, an influencer, by all means, spend months researching that if you want before you start. If you are a company, start with how does it look all right? Then does it provide enough value? And then you operationalize how do you make it even better? So, in my opinion, you use those short pieces of content, you use those reels to grab attention, you use them to have a quick introduction to the person of this is someone with value, or this is someone who knows something that I don't, and if I follow them, if I look them up, if I find them even further, then I'll get even more value. And the majority of the content strategy is, rather what it should be for every corporate thing out there, is show the what, then sell the how. Show the fact that you have a knowledge, show that this is the reason for this is X, Y, and Z, but then you sell the service of this is why X, Y, and Z exists. Even on our site, for example, I'm not precious of it because we're about to launch it in the next few months, for our own content strategy, majority of would be, these are the biggest mistakes when it comes to video, or this is what good looks like. How you want to get to that point, totally fine, give us a call. Happily talk to you. So the website becomes a repository for the larger story pieces that give me more of a, right, this is who they are. Right, this is what the company does. This is what the larger offer is. Whereas the reels or the little pieces are meant to grab short attention and redirect them to something else or provide value or, in fact, entertainment. The last bit I should definitely point out, because corporates are, this is a sweeping generalization, I understand, but corporates are messing this up greatly. Just because it's TikTok and dances are trending, it doesn't mean you should go and do dances. It is stupid. TikTok, for example, has been voted currently the best place that people go for their news. It's outdid Google when it comes to that.
TikTok.
Yeah. Which is...
No wonder the world's in the message.
Yeah, but it's exactly that sort of thing. But if you know that you have a younger base, even in professional services, then be there and give them that value.
I was going to ask you about that. So, again, there's lots of social media channels. Above and beyond those that people will have heard of. So, do you look at the makeup of the business, their target audience, and advise them where to be placing the production that you create for them? Or is that sort of not your job, it's over to them?
So a bit of both. We'll give them, every time we train a company and help them with setting up their social media, sort of the reels, the media side of things, we'll always provide them like a little Bible of resources. When do you post? How do you distribute? Where's it best? How do you structure it? What does it work? All that kind of stuff. It depends massively on the internal resources. So I say, for example, any less than, at least it seems to indicate that, data seems to indicate that, any less than like 3 reels a week or 3 pieces of media a week, you might as well not do any. But 3 reels a week is per platform. So do you have the internal capacity to post it everywhere? And does it matter for it to be everywhere? If you're a corporate litigator, for example, chances are TikTok probably won't be the greatest platform to start with. It's just not where your audience is. On the other hand, however, if you are a type of service, and again, I keep giving examples with legal companies only because they tend to be very versatile in the type of things that they do, private clients, B2B clients, all that kind of stuff. You want to speak to corporates, LinkedIn is your place. You want to speak to the general public above a certain age, so above 30, Facebook is still very relevant to that. You want to speak to people younger than that, definitely Instagram. People even younger, that would also be on both, would probably be TikTok. YouTube Shorts is massive because the algorithm still pushes it. Basically, TikTok became a phenomenon that made most, if not all, other social media platforms to model their real function after it, so that it continues to change what's on your For You page or what's on your kind of algorithm, what it pushes to you. Because it goes, well, you've seen 17 videos of cats. Would you like number 18? The same goes, however, for advice. If you use it for news, all that's going to keep popping up would be, and of course, algorithm's going to test it once every 12. It's going to go do you want to see a cat? But you get to decide. If you stay on it, like, it's very clever to do that. You basically use it as, you use all of them as much as you can. But if you are asking for a strategy, for example, I'd say maximize one. If you know that most of your business is coming from LinkedIn, push a lot more than that. And the moment that input, the leverage that you get out of there dips significantly, maybe then expand to a different platform. But if you want just general stuff and you don't know, actually, I don't know where my audience is coming from, I don't know where clients are coming from, test all of them with 3 per week and then move upwards from that. We made a test at the time where we did a big internal test in the company. One of the biggest marketing agencies in Liverpool was posting like 35 times a week across all platforms. In the span of 6 months, for the duration of 6 months, we posted 94 pieces of content a week across all platforms. We didn't have the internal capacity to do that further at the time, but we tested everything. It wasn't the same piece on every platform on every day. We needed to track, do the different pieces matter? Is it what I say, or at which time we've posted, or to which platform? We tracked that weekly, then we tracked it monthly. There was a distinguishable exponential increase, even only for the 6 months. You do that for 3 years, your attention grows massively. But it's all then becomes, because that's why I told you in the beginning, I'd much rather speak on the educational side of things, because all of this is very important and it relates to everyone. Obviously, what would help a commercial litigator won't help your average plumbing company. There'll be a completely different thing. But entertainment versus education, and the thing in the middle, which is the edutainment, or whatever you want to call it, is a very fine balance. If you speak about family law whilst juggling and it goes viral, most marketers will tell you, well, out of that 1 million, at least you're reaching someone who benefit from your service. But the algorithm doesn't work like that. It makes a point of, well, all of these people have watched it, where the algorithm recommends entertaining stuff, so you're just going to push it to them. It's a lot more. It's much better to have, say, consistent 500 views, because it's the equivalent of speaking to a room of 500 people. If all of them want to listen to you, and if all of them will benefit from your advice, here's your customer base. Even if it's 500, 5 of them, 10 of them, 15, 20 of them buy, it's still a much better thing than being shown to the virality of, 2 million views of you juggling eggs or whatever.
Okay. Right. Just note to self, I'm not going to do that juggling that I plan to do next week in our next video.
You can try. You never know.
I think I'll give that one a miss. When you're working with a business, so we've been through the business owners and how you sort of negotiate with them and take them through the journey that you want United Balls Productions to take them on. They sometimes will have an internal communications team, as we do at Downtown, but others will have external PR and marketing support. So what are the sort of partnerships that you try to get into when you're working with a company who have that additional support from an external PR agency?
So I'd say that in my experience, this has been probably one of the most trickiest things to navigate. And
Is that because the PR agency see you as competition?
No, I wouldn't. I don't think the data would suggest that from what I've seen.
Because the PR competition think you might be eating some of their lunch?
There's always a possibility of that. I wouldn't have... I wouldn't necessarily presume. I think the biggest issue becomes, and part of this is touching upon that as well. PR and marketing, similar to how I described guns and bullets a moment ago, very difficult to go, we cost 50 grand for the year, 100 grand for the year, 20 grand for the year, 10 grand for the year, and this is what we deliver backwards. Part of it is very difficult to be quantifiable or measurable, which is fine. Logos are like that forever. Here's where the difficulty lies. We do, in fact, probably half of the clients we work with at the moment have other external support from different companies. If they look for recommendations from us, that's pretty easy, because we know the type of partners that are good for us, the type of partners that get results. So if I know that we need to take one of our pieces and get it in front of as many people as possible, then we'll employ someone or partner with someone who we know will do paid advertising to the point where it will reach the most amount of people. When they already have that support, that's where the tricky part becomes, because in my experience, a lot of external partners, as you rightfully put it, oh no, if these people deliver better results, my lunch is on the table for them to grab, which is not what they want, understandably so. The way I kind of mitigate or manage that is, if you provide the results that you claim that you're providing, we're going to get along well. Because all it would mean is that I'm going to plug in your strategy and you're going to plug in mine. And then we get to work together. We had a client who had an external company that was not meeting any criteria. It's very difficult to manage the possibility of, we know we're both being paid, we're delivering our results, they're not delivering their results, but you don't know what those results should be as a client. And it's tough for me to go to them and say, I know we came in late, but could you kick them out? Because they're just wasting your money. That's a tough conversation to have. And again, I mean, within that whole big process in the beginning, within discovery, within the strategizing before they sign, we tend to ask, do you have any additional support already in place? Would you require any additional support? And how does that communication look for? Because whilst I'm incredibly happy to, if I work for any company, to go through the marketing, to the internal marketing department, what are your needs? What does work? What doesn't work? Rather than going to the CEO directly or the managing director. If it's an external support, I am very much against going through them to speak to the client. We deliver different results that need to be paired, that's true. So I work in tandem, but you won't be another level prior to me talking to the client, because I need to know what they want. I need to know what their needs are, not what you assume their needs to be according to us. Same go why, for example, if I work with a branding agency, a PR company, a marketing company that doesn't do paid ads, it's not up to them to tell, which might sound a little arrogant, I hope not, but it's not up to them to tell me when the client needs our work, if the client's approached us. Because that conversation that I've had with him should have then been relayed and communicated internally. So that's kind of the tricky part. We don't see anyone, because as far as I'm aware, we have a very robust 17-year remaining plan for the company. We know everything that's going to happen well, not everything is going to happen. We know that what we need to hit in every one of those 17 years to reach our goal at the end. So far, we don't have plans to do anything but video, because there's so much of that market. Yes, there are different sounds of video. Maybe we'll reach more into online courses. Maybe we'll go more into bigger training. Maybe we'll go more into speaking, or whatever the case is. But it will still be about video. I don't see any of them as competition, because we don't offer what they offer. And vice versa. I don't think they should see me as competition, or us as a competition, because we'll never step on their toes. Now, naturally, if the strategy is to provide these bright colors for the company and I shoot them as a dramatic Batman film, sure, then there's an internal problem. But we invest a lot in the communication and pre-agreement of, we create detailed frameworks that need to be approved by everyone before we even go to the shoot date. On the back of that, there's footage reports. We keep, similar to a professional services company, we want to make sure that at no point does the client go, what happens next? When am I speaking to you? What does this feel like? And if we create that structure, we expect in our second year, well, it's third year in a couple of months, but if we can do that in our second year, and the other support company has been going much longer than us and don't have that communications in place, I have no sympathy for that.
Okay. I think what I'd say is that if you're in collaboration with another business to support a company, and particularly in your space, which is marketing, if you grow the company's cake, then there's more for both of you the following year to share.
100%.
So I don't get why businesses sometimes look at others as a threat or competition. And we've had it to an extent. I mean, it's difficult, I think, to pigeonhole Downtown in business because we are unique. But we've certainly had people who, maybe do print advertising and think, oh, well, we can't work with Downtown in business because they're going to take marketing budget from business. I don't know any successful business on the planet who spend all their marketing money with one agency, one company, one way of profiling themselves. And so this idea that you can't collaborate, you can't work as partners, you've got to be wary of anybody who's working in the same space as you. It's absolutely nonsensical to me, but then I'm a collaborator by nature, and I know you are.
100%.
I think people who are perhaps less of that mindset do their own business damage, and ultimately the businesses that they're working with damage as well. So I think the way you approach things is, not only is it common sense, but it actually benefits everybody who gets involved.
But I think you're totally right on that front. It's never, maybe because of my background, maybe because I like systems, whatever the reason is. The question always becomes, what's that, for lack of, again, sounding a little arrogant, what's the tide that lifts all boats? What is it that we do, that we can do even as time progresses? Now, I don't mind, for example, the same goes for us. We collaborate with a lot of companies that are much larger than us. So I won't, at the moment, do, if Subway approaches me tomorrow and says, can you film our big ad and we're going to give you $250,000? No, not because I can't. I can pull in collaborators, I can pull in freelancers. It's not what I want to focus on. Vice versa, on the lower end, if someone goes, well, it's a small event, it's Minan's birthday, it's probably not for us, but we work with a lot of people on a lower level of either skill or lower level of team or capacity, and we'll send those out. As time progresses, a lot of that, because I very much foresee it, media companies unfortunately have only one of two futures. You either sell or you start acquiring other companies. There's no other ways to go. At a certain point, there's no other ways to grow. And I foresee, because you make a point about collaboration, at some point, the biggest thing would approach a company and they'll go, why would you want us? Why would you want to be in our space? But the question is, if you deliver the same results that I deliver, for the speed that you deliver them, by all means, stay here. No one's going to threaten you. If you don't know how to deliver results, if you're bad at delivering results, if you are lying to people and don't know what you're doing, then you have the moral obligation to step down. And if you don't want to, we'll happily move you out of the way, which sounds mildly threatening. It's not the point there. Ideally, I would want all companies to do better. I would want to help other companies. But here's an example. I spoke to, again, won't give names, but spoke to quite a few media companies since we remodeled to provide that internal training. Where I get from everywhere, most of those companies have been set up at least a decade ago. What we got from everyone was, why would you give away your skills? They're going to just take away. But the company's not going to randomly then immediately invest in 50 grand of equipment, £250,000 of a team that comes and does it. It won't happen.
Okay, Michael, you've talked about a lot of the work that you do with corporate sector legal firms, but I know you've got a broad portfolio of companies that you work with, very diverse, not just in terms of the sectors, but in terms of the places where you work. You work right across the country. So give people a flavour of the types of companies, the types of businesses that you work with.
I suppose, other than the obvious answer of the professional services industry, we work a lot with training providers in various of different points, from upskilling the engineering and construction sort of the construction side of the company. We believe that majority of the companies, our biggest differentiator, the focus where we want to go is where there are stories. We have a fantastic client, Hybrid Tech, that is based not only in Liverpool, but on a national level. And it's similar to us. I mean, although our base is in Liverpool, we work all across the country, and from next month officially, internationally, which will be quite fun. But it's a lot. There's so many stories within the company, not only the people that work there, not only their CEOs and how they've gotten to that point, but also the people who come in as clients. How has that company helped them change their life? And because we like things like that, we attach ourselves to things like that, which is a part, by the way, to mention. There's a lot of companies now that realized things like testimonial videos are a great idea, but a lot of them doing it the wrong way. And part of that is where we speak about the breadth of our clients. That is the biggest educational piece. It's not for someone to go on camera and go, these guys are great. Well, you would say that. You're in front of a camera. It's a lot more powerful to go, I couldn't sleep at night. this was a problem. I was worrying because of this. I couldn't pay mortgage or whatever the case is. And then I found these guys here. And what they did for me was this. And now I'm here and I'm on the mend. Because people then tend to identify with that story. They go, well, I can't sleep at night because of the same thing. And if they manage to help you, oh my God, they can definitely help me. And that goes within all sort of sectors. It doesn't matter if you're B2C or B2B. The stories of people that are being helped become that powerful attraction to it. It's not the fact that you dress in a nice suit or that you wear construction clothes to a building. It's a lot more of, how can you help? And in a more kind of selfish way for business owners, which is what I always kind of say, we always want to go, oh, it's amazing, we've got the best equipment and it's the biggest building, the tallest stuff and the best concrete. Like, it means nothing. In a selfish way, it always, everyone who watches it, the question always is, how does that relate to me? How can you help me? So if we can crack that across a breadth of very diverse different companies of various sizes across both the city region and the country, and probably internationally as time progresses, then it would be a good measurable metric of success, I think.
Excellent. And the final thing, we say this in every Downtown Den with all of our partners. Why Downtown? Why are you involved with us?
We've touched a bunch of times throughout this conversation the point of a common sense, right? So, short answer, because it was common sense. Elaborating on that, I am not ashamed to share that we are very early on in our journey. We had a very good offering to begin with, and naturally when you're starting out, the question always is, where do you get clients from? I'm always a massive believer of collection of data. First book I ever read was Sherlock Holmes when I was 4. And there was a big line there, data, data, data. I can't make bricks without clay. So in the first year of business, we were a little bit of a, pardon my expression, I was a little bit of a networking hussy. I attended 164 networking events in a single year. Wow. With a singular goal, not sell, not buy clients, not get clients, not whatever of that. It was, what is networking? What makes a good event versus a bad event? What makes a good speaker versus a bad speaker? What makes good sort of group of people that you network with versus people who just want to get pissed, effectively? And it was about 3/4 in or midway through our first year when, during one of the many networking coffees that I have had, that someone mentioned, oh, by the way, I'm invited to a downtown lunch. What is downtown? Quite new to it. He said, well, it's much smaller, it's much more intimate. People are all decision makers or mostly decision makers, and they get to meet both public and private sector. They get to know what's happening. You should come along. We should see if we can get an invite. And in fact, invite I did get. I'm not going to lie, I was quite nervous in the sense that, A, what the hell do I know about business? B, how are those big CEOs or managing directors going to look on me? Is it going to look down on me? Or whatever the case is, it was incredible. And I hope I don't sound like I'm blowing smoke. Everyone was there because they wanted to be there. Everyone was there because the conversation stimulated growth within the room, but also outside of the room. Everyone who wasn't chipping in directly into the conversation were directly affected by what's happening, both on a political and a business level. The offering that Downtown has is completely unique. It is not only because of the connection of private and public sector, but the level of networking where it comes. Yes, of course, it is more of an exclusive thing. It has an entry fee, like everything. But everyone and their aunt's going to tell you something that is valuable needs to be expensive. Otherwise, people don't trust it. And it's not even, I make a point about nothing is expensive. It's not cost. It's not money. It's investment. And it's investment, and the return on that investment is as much as you put in. If you join Downtown and go to one event or one lunch and go, I haven't got my money back, that is on you. We have seen, and again, I'm not ashamed to say this, I think in our first year, obviously we were just members, but we got a couple of clients out of there. In our second year, I think Downtown's network accounted for about half of our revenue, if not more. And the network of people around there, majority of them are companies that are looking to grow. So it isn't just your son, well, I came here for the lunch. I mean, the lunches are great, don't get me wrong, but it's everything around that. And Downtown seems to, sorry if I'm presuming, but Downtown also seems to want to grow. So when we approach you both with wanting to be a part of that and as the collaboration metric, it made sense for the both of us. To put that profile out there, but for us, it made sense to be in the room with people that are exactly the type of people I'd like to speak to and educate. And I sincerely hope this relationship carries on for a long time.
Excellent. I'm sure it will. And we look forward to working with you on your first international corporate project at MIPIM.
Certainly.
So that's Michael Wolf from United Wolves Productions. A fascinating story. And if you want to know more about United Wolf Productions, look on the link below. Michael's more than happy to come and have a conversation with you. He's a good talker, but they're great at what they do. Me, I'm Frank McKenna, Chief Exec Group Chair of Downtown in Business, and this has been us in the Downtown Den with our latest Meet the Partner.